You've cleaned up your diet, maintained a calorie deficit, and stayed consistent for weeks. You step on the scale and see the numbers dropping. Your face looks leaner, your arms are more defined, and your legs are slimming down. But the midsection hasn't moved a millimeter. Watching the rest of your body shrink while your stomach stays exactly the same is a common point of exhaustion. After weeks of this visual plateau, it's easy to assume the protocol is no longer working. Many force progress by adding hundreds of crunches, but biology doesn't work this way. While intense core work strengthens local muscle fibers, it has no effect on the fat layer sitting directly on top. Fat loss is a systemic process, not a local one. The sequence in which your body burns stored energy is written into your DNA. Your genetics determine exactly where fat leaves first and where it stays the longest. No amount of physical effort can override this internal priority list. This sequence often creates a period where the scale slows down and the mirror stops changing. This is frequently a transition phase. The body has processed the most accessible energy stores and is beginning the metabolic shift required to mobilize more resistant tissue. A stagnant belly is often the evidence that your body has cleared out the easy fuel and reached the final stage of its survival sequence. To understand why the stomach shrinks last, we have to look inside it. The abdominal region holds two independent fat layers, and they operate on very different biological timelines. This cross-section of the human torso shows the first layer, deep visceral fat. This tissue is packed inside the abdominal cavity, wrapping around vital organs like the heart and liver. It is highly metabolically active and chemically reactive. Because visceral fat is loaded with receptors that respond to fat-burning signals, it often shrinks first. During the initial weeks of a calorie deficit, this internal layer recedes, clearing space around your organs and improving metabolic markers. While this internal clearing happens, the outer ring of subcutaneous fat, the soft layer you can pinch, remains unchanged. It lacks the same high density of fat-releasing receptors, making it much more resistant to early mobilization. This explains why your health is improving long before your appearance. Your waist circumference might be dropping, and your organs are functioning better, but these critical victories remain entirely invisible in the mirror. The visual pattern of fat loss is similar to a puddle drying on pavement. The thin edges evaporate first, while the dense center disappears last. On the human body, this translates to fat leaving the extremities, like the face and the arms and the legs, before the body attempts to pull energy from the dense core. This isn't just a physical pattern, it's driven by the chemistry of your cells. Subcutaneous belly fat is loaded with a high concentration of alpha-2 receptors. These function as biological inhibitors. When activated, they significantly slow down the rate at which fat can be released from the cell. This inhibition is compounded by poor blood flow in the abdominal region. Even when the body manages to mobilize some of this fat, the sluggish circulation makes it difficult for the body to transport those energy particles away to be burned. The body regulates this process using cortisol, its primary survival hormone. From an evolutionary standpoint, belly fat was a critical energy reserve for times of famine. When cortisol levels remain elevated, it signals the body to protect these specific stores, making the alpha-2 receptors even more resistant to fat breakdown. Extreme dieting tactics often backfire here. Starving yourself or grinding through exhaustive cardio sends a massive stress signal to the brain, which responds by doubling down on fat storage in the midsection. These modern stress responses force the body to preserve its deepest energy reserves. To reach that last layer of fat, the body needs a signal of metabolic safety, not more stress. To mobilize resistant belly fat, you must avoid triggering the starvation response. This requires a moderate, sustainable calorie deficit, draining energy at a pace the brain perceives as safe. Strength training is the second requirement. Lifting weights or doing resistance work twice a week protects your muscle tissue and keeps your resting metabolism active, ensuring you burn more calories even while at rest. For cardio, steady walking is often the most effective choice. It burns extra energy without the high physiological stress of intense sprints, helping to keep your baseline cortisol levels manageable. Sleep is the final regulator. 7 to 9 hours of quality rest helps balance hunger hormones and lowers the chronic stress signals that tell your cells to hold on to their energy stores. This combination of habits convinces the brain that the environment is secure. When the physiological stress drops, the body finally begins to mobilize the resistant fat it was previously hoarding. That stubborn layer around your midsection is not a permanent fixture. It is simply the final chronological step in a biological timeline. Reaching a frustrating plateau often indicates that the body has successfully processed its easier energy sources. With those gone, the body is left with no choice but to finally pull from its abdominal stores. The absence of immediate change in the mirror reflects a period where the body is depleting its less visible energy stores. It is a sign of an active, functioning biological sequence. Outlasting the sequence is the only requirement for success. If you stay the course, the body eventually exhausts all other options and finally targets the fat it has been holding onto since the beginning.